outside of the box, right? Let's go ahead and think about this outside of the box. Like, share, subscribe. Definitely subscribe because I need new subscribers to get monetized because I I've gave up everything else and my new endeavor is to um my new endeavor is to inform the people. That's a part of it, but I'm a hustler. I am from New York City, so I got to get paid for this. But let's think about this rationally. A lot of the things that people omit from the conversation is that black people own slaves, Native Americans own slaves, white people own slaves. A slave was not cheap, right? For you to get somebody to do your labor that you didn't want to do yourself was not a cheap task. It wasn't like what it is today where initially just you can initially just hire a maid to clean your house. It wasn't like that. Okay, so let's start there. But let's go. Remember, like, share, subscribe. My name is Sazo, and I love y'all, man. I love y'all, man. I love y'all. One thing about conservatives, we can be friends with everybody. Most of my friends are liberal. As a conservative, most of my friends is liberal. So let me just remind y'all of that. Get to know. First slave owner in the colonies, Anthony Johnson. Let's go.
While slavery existed in the American colonies through the establishment of the United States as a country until the end of the Civil War, there have been many misconceptions about slavery in general. Most Americans are not aware that there were some black former slaves and freemen who also owned black slaves, and some became very
If is he lying? Most, I mean, they are not most, but some black people who were slaves that eventually became slave owners.
prominent in politics as well, despite the racial prejudice that existed. Some black slave owners inherited their slaves from their masters, who were themselves freed in their wills. Others were either born free or emancipated by their masters and then bought their own slaves, while others were able to buy their own freedom and that of their families. Who were these black slave owners and how did they attain such a status in a white dominated society? What set them apart from other blacks and what made them comparable to whites in some of the colonies and later states? What
Yeah, let me just tell you this. I don't do this to make people angry. I don't do this to make people vex or nothing like that. I just I'm just really trying to get accurate sense of history. A lot of people believe that all Africans sold slaves. No, only certain tribes captured and sold slaves. Only certain tribes of Africans captures and sold slaves. Not all African tribes, not all African nationalities captures captured and sold slaves to the buyers.
changed in colonial society, altering the status of indentured servants to lifetime slaves? And why? Who was Anthony Johnson?
One of the Mansa Musa, they didn't believe that Mansa Musa had slaves. The richest man in the history of the world, Mansa Musa, they didn't believe that Mansa Musa had slaves and all his um, people who worked for him were just indentured servitude, which I believe that some of them was lifetime slaves because I think Mansa Musa was a person um who's a colonial, I mean, not colonialist, he was a capitalist. So he brought slaves, lifetime slaves. He bought slaves that's who was debted into indentured servitude. He bought debt from other people. So yeah, anyway, let's keep it rolling.
Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, former soldier, Marine Corps scout sniper, history professor, historian, and book author. And we will answer these questions and other issues on this segment of Forgotten History.
Wow. What that white man got to say? What this white man got to say? I believe it. I believe what he's saying is, I'm gonna take it for what it was or what it is. Anthony Johnson.
The vast majority of African Americans in the United States were enslaved, in all of the states, not just the South. Our first person of note is Anthony Johnson, who was born in Angola and captured by Portuguese slave traders, and he was given the name Antonio. Then his
a lot of people believe that. A lot of people believe. Sorry, y'all. I had to take a break. He was born in Angola, so he had a culture. Maybe he was a captured slave. I think so. He was a captured slave. He was from a different tribe. He was from the tribe that was actually opposite of the slave catchers. So let's see.
Captors sold him into the Atlantic slave trade. He sailed to Virginia in 1621 aboard the ship James. The Virginia muster, or census, of 1624 lists his name as Antonio, not given, and he was recorded as a Negro in the notes column and indentured. Antonio, later Anthony, was bought by a colonist in Virginia, but treated as an indentured servant, which was not unusual, and Antonio worked for a merchant at the Virginia Company, and he became a Catholic. Johnson was sold as an indentured servant to a white planter named Bennett to work on his Virginia tobacco farm. Technically, he was not a slave because the slave laws were not passed until 1661 in Virginia. So prior to that date, Africans were not officially considered to be slaves in that colony.
So he wasn't a slave. He was actually indentured, meaning that his time, his time is limited to work. He's not forever. He's not forever. He can work. He can work his time off, and then once he works his time off, then he becomes free. Indentured servitude compared to slavery. I think it's both slavery, but indentured servitude compared to forever slavery. That's the big difference.
According to the records kept by his benefactor and the existing documents, Anthony was nearly killed in the Indian Massacre of 1622 when the Powhatan Indians attacked colonists in the Tidewater region of Virginia. On Good Friday, they raided the settlement, including the Bennett farm, where Antonio worked, and killed 52 of the 57 men present. And
you know why? Holiday, you sleeping on a holiday. You know what I mean? People, that's why the Native Americans attacked them on a holiday, because on a holiday, they're relaxing, they're chilling. Makes a lot of sense.
Antonio apparently fought back and was wounded and earned the esteem of his master. In 1623, a black woman named Mary arrived aboard the ship Margaret and John. She was brought to work on the same plantation as Antonio, where she was the only woman present. Antonio and Mary married and lived together for more than 40 years. Around 1635, Antonio and Mary completed their indentured servitude, and Antonio changed his name to Anthony Johnson. He first entered the legal record as an unindentured free man when he purchased a calf in 1647. During this early period, free blacks enjoyed...
First thing he bought was a cow, man. You need milk, man. You need milk. And then you need milk for his family. And then once he got the milk or the calf, I'm sure he maybe made the calf into more cows. And then he was able to take care of his family from there.
Relative equality with whites, and about 20% of the free blacks in Virginia owned their own homes and property. In 1662, The Virginia colony passed a law that children
Oh, so free blacks existed in the 1600s in America. Keep that in mind. Free black people existed in the 1600s in America. You heard what he said? Free black people existed in the 1600s in America. Keep that in your mind, because after they did indentured servitude and they served their time, they became free black people. A lot of people going to leave that out.
in the colony were born with the social status of their mother. This meant that the children of slave women were born into slavery, even if their fathers were free, European, Christian, and white. This was a reversal of English common law, which held that the children of English subjects took the status of their father. The Virginia colonial government expressed the opinion that since Africans were not Christians, common law could not and did not apply to them, even if they converted, as Anthony Johnson did.
You heard about it? Africans were not Christians. Think about it. That's what they say. That's what Africans, the modern day Africans, say, that African Americans, they have no culture, right? Because Africans were not the same culture as the white people. So even though Africans were Christians, right? Even though Africans got Christianity from their owners, but their owners got their Christianity from somewhere else. So you think about it. The black people who were, after they served their time in indentured servitude, they still feel like that. After they serve their time, the people feel like they're still not worthy or they're still not Christian. But really, you're serving the same God we serve. Think about it.
On July 24, 1651, Johnson acquired 250 acres of land under the existing headright system when he bought the contracts of 5 indentured servants, one being his son, Richard Johnson.
That's deep.
Student.
That's deep. You think about it, like he he bought the contracts of his son or his family because his family, due to the fact that he had children under him being an indentured servant, so his masters own his children's rights.
System. If a man were to bring indentured servants over to the colonies, and in this particular case Johnson brought 5 servants, he was owed 50 acres a head for servant. The land in question was located on the Great Naswata Creek, which flowed into the Punkateague River in Northampton County, Virginia. This was where Anthony Johnson operated his successful tobacco farm, and one of his indentured servants was John Cassor, who became one of the first men to be declared indentured for life, effectively a slave. Under the 1645 Virginia...
Wait, so you're saying there was somebody who was indentured for life before Mr. Johnson went to the court? Let's bring that back. Let me bring that back 2 seconds.
For life, effectively a slave. Under the 1645 Virginia Taxation Act, all Negro men and women and all other men...
Hold on, what are you saying?
...declared indentured for life, effectively a slave. Under the... He was owed 50 acres a head for servant. The land in question was located on the Great Naswata Creek, which flowed into the Punkateague River in Northampton County, Virginia. This was where Anthony Johnson operated his successful tobacco farm, and one of his indentured servants was John Cassor, who became...
Okay, so we're talking about the same person. He's talking about John Cassor, the same person. John Cassor. Remember, this location where this guy is doing business, he's a black slave owner. Mind you, he's a black slave owner, and he has somebody who's working for him under indentured servitude, not slavery.
One of the first men to be declared indentured for life,
Mhm.
effectively a slave. Under the 1645 Virginia Taxation Act, all Negro men and women and all other men from the age of 16 to 60 shall be judged tithable. So after a fire in 1652 caused him great financial damage to his property, he applied for relief in the courts and
Mhm.
won. Back then, people were taxed, not property. But in
This is a black person. Mind you, keep in mind, this is a black person that he's talking about. He's not talking about a white man. He's talking about a black man. He's talking about a black man who owns an indentured servant. Mind you, Anthony Johnson owns this guy, or he doesn't own him at this point. He doesn't own him. He owns a debt. This guy owes a debt to Anthony Johnson, which is indentured servitude. Keep that in mind.
indentured servants and later slaves were taxed as property. It is unclear from the records why the Johnson women were exempted, but the change gave them the same social standing as white women, who were not taxed. In the colonies back then, one was judged more on their religion as opposed to race or ethnicity in general, so until the advent of actual legal slavery, upward mobility was possible for many races.
Period.
During the case, the
Upward,
justices noted that
upward mobility was possible for many races, even black people. Upward mobility in the 1600s was possible. Like you could really, through capitalism, you could really come up, you could really own slaves. Like in the 1600s, black people can own slaves. A lot of people want to leave this out of history, but in the 1600s, black people owned slaves, and not only black people, white people, but not only white people, Native Americans owned and can purchase slaves. In the 1600s, we're not even in the 1700s, we're not even in 1800s. Think about it.
Anthony and Mary Johnson had lived in Virginia for over 30 years and were highly respected in their community. In fact, a 1653 Northampton County Court document lists Mary as Anthony's wife. By the 1650s, Anthony and Mary Johnson were farming 250 acres in Northampton County, while their two sons owned 550 acres. They also had additional indentured persons under contract, but the exact numbers are not known.
Wow.
His son, Richard Johnson, also had his own indentured persons, probably given to him by his father,
Wow.
who were effectively slaves with a shelf life. At some point,
Did you hear what he said? These are all black people who own slaves, who own indentured servants, not slaves at this point, because slavery is, slavery is forever. Slavery is when I choose to relinquish my power over you. These people own indentured servants in the 1600s, man. Why do people lie? How can we really discuss reparations when black people own indentured servants in the 1600s? Let's really talk about that. How can we really discuss reparations? And everybody think that all black people are the same. No. It's one of the biggest lies perpetrated. Black people are not all the same. Everybody couldn't afford slaves. Some people could. Jay-Z would have slaves today.
if contracted, they would have to be set free. In 1854,
50 Cent would definitely have slaves. Puff Daddy would definitely own slaves. LeBron James would definitely own slaves today because they have the money to own slaves. And if you had the money, you would own and buy slaves and participate in the slave trade as a black man, black woman in the 1600s. Don't let these people lie to you. Don't let these people think your history begins at. Don't let these people believe that your history. Don't let these people believe Don't let these people make you believe that your history started as slavery. No, it's not true.
John Cassor, who had been sentenced to indentured service for life for his escaping a previous owner in 1640, filed a suit against Johnson, claiming his indentured service had expired, and he went to work for Robert and George Parker. Johnson filed a freedom suit to get Cassor back, but Parker won. What is amazing in retrospect was that Johnson, a black man, was not only able to file a petition to the court, but he was able to testify and give evidence in the court, which illustrates the rather egalitarian system.
A black man, sorry to tell you, that's what it's looking like right now. A black man was the man who argued for slavery in America. A black man was the first person to own a forever slave in America. A black man. Because before that, it was indentured servitude, meaning that when they brought Africans across the water to the coast of North America, the people who they brought only could work for a limited time, and they can work off their time. And then after they work off their time, whether it be 100 hours, whether it be 1,000 hours, whether it be 10,000 hours, then they could be free after they work their 10,000 hours. But it was a black man who argued that this is forever, nigga. This is forever. If I bring you from Africa to America, you work for me forever. I'll be back with part 2, man. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the misconception. I'm tired of the lies. I'm tired of it. All black people not the same. Period.